Hey, if you have a Mach-E and you want to do this, but you don't have the module, we'll show you how it's done with our aftermarket EV Vida module. Check this out. So when you receive our kit, it comes in this bag. We're gonna go through what this bag's about before we actually do the actual installation. You're gonna have the sensor. Notice the word sensor. And the key thing with this is that the actual sensor is on the opposite side. We'll cover that shortly. You're also gonna get the cables. These are exactly what you're going to use to be splicing. Furthermore, you get some zip ties, some screws, a sticker, and a double-sided tape. Most of it you'll use, some of it you won't. So let's talk about what you will use right now in the video. So the cable. There's basically 4 separate wires. There is the red wire that is included with a fuse tap that you're not going to use. There is a yellow wire which is intended to connect to your 12 volt, which we will use. There's also a black wire that has a tip like this, and that's for your ground. And then finally you have a green wire, right? A green wire, and that's intended to splice into your trigger wire. So again, there's 4 colors, right? It is yellow, red, green, and black. You're not going to use the red. You're only going to use 3 of the 4 wires. So what you can do with the red is you can either cut it off or just tuck it aside, but you're not. So let's talk about connections. You basically need to get 3 of these wires through this grommet, up and inside and behind these panels. I'm going to remove all these panels out so you can see exactly where it goes. Taking these panels out can be tough. Take your time and try not to rush. These panels have clips behind them. Sometimes they can get stuck. This is where it helps to know where they are so you can navigate and reach in and pinch these to remove it easier. If you gently kind of wiggle them around, it will come loose as well. I've done this enough where I know exactly where all the connection points are. And then my last one. So for this last panel, and I mentioned this many times, don't just pull it off. This light has a switch. Make sure you disconnect the switch when you are pulling this down. So this is what I mean. There is a switch here. I also have another lighting. So make sure you disconnect the switch. I have some other halo lights that I just disconnected. Remember, this is the switch that I was talking about. Make sure you don't yank it all the way off. Just make sure you go nice and easy. It's this gray switch. Don't ignore this Posi-Tap because I have something else with that. So what we're going to do is that we're going to navigate the wires up and through. I actually already have them routed. So what you're going to see is that the wire comes up and through. 3 of the 4 wires are up and through. I have a ground, and I do it on the passenger side because it allows me more length for the running of the cable. So I have my ground that's going here. So sometimes you may have to remove this cable to get to this ground. It won't do any harm. You just push this clip and release. So you put it in the ground, and then you route the rest, which is, remember, the green and the yellow. The only reason why you don't see the yellow here is because I actually wrapped them in tape already, so it's nice and clean. But this is the green. It keeps going and going and going. I'll show you where the yellow is. So this is the bottom of the trunk. You're going to look at the left side, and there is this little box here to the left of your motor. This is where we're going to do the tap for the trigger and power. So ignoring this red, because it's also spliced into the power, this is the yellow wire that came with the kit. This is the Posi-Tap that came with the clip. You Posi-Tap it into this thicker red gauge wire. This is power. And we use the thicker blue Posi-Tap because of the thicker gauge wire. I'll show you how to use the Posi-Tap shortly. And then the green wire here is Posi-Tap into this brown wire in the back. This is trigger. In the old video, we will go in the back here, but we don't have to do that anymore because the trigger wire is right there. So we're gonna go show you how to use the Posi-Tap now. So as I mentioned, there are two Posi-Taps, a blue and a red. The red ones are the smaller gauge wire, which is intended for the trigger. The blue is for the larger gauge wires, intended for the 12 volts. So to do the Posi-Tap, and I'm gonna do it on the larger Posi-Tap because it's the same thing, but you have a much better visual, is that this end, the larger end, has a pointier side. There you go. This is intended to splice into the cable. And what I mean by that is that when you are connecting to a cable that's already connected like this, you slide in this cap first, all the way through. So like that, you slide it all the way through. And then this cap in, because it's pointy, will then screw in. What's happening is that when you screw all the way in, because of the pointy side, it's gonna puncture the wire, allowing it to be spliced. On the other end, there's a cap and it has a little hole. Make sure you can see the hole and make sure it goes all the way through. This is for when you have this wire, because it's not connected to anything, and make sure you have enough of a gap. You're gonna slide in this wire through this the hole, cap side. Make sure it goes all the way through. And then you're gonna push it all the way through on this side where there is a flat connector. What's happening is that the wire, the bare wire here, is now connecting to this source. So once you push it through, you tighten it, make sure you keep pushing the wires through. You tighten it all the way, so this is no longer loose, is completely connected and screwed in. This is the connection for a Posi-Tap. All right, so let's look at how the wires are routed. When you're routing the wire, you have two ways of doing it. You can either route the opposite end of this coming down, or it's a lot easier to route this coming up. When we're routing wires, the best way to do is that you open up this weather strip along this entire side, opening it all the way. But you can just pull it off. There's some adhesive here, so try not to touch it, but don't worry, it's not gonna hurt you. Once you open this up, you can pull this down, this piece. You can reach in your hand, it's magnetic. You can pull it down, you can grab the wire. This grommet here is the toughest part. You have to take off this rubber gasket to route the wires. I'm not gonna show you how to route the wires because there's so many different ways, but you just need to route the wires through here. And it's self-explanatory in terms of routing wires. You just have to be patient and resilient. Some people get it on their first try. Some people, like me, take an hour. Once you get it through, you're gonna take all the wires out, or in this instance, this particular end comes, and you're gonna tuck it underneath this entire, where the light is showing, which is, by the way, shout out to the Halo version 2. You're gonna tuck this all the way in. At this point, we need to take off this part, and they'll show you how to do that right now. All right, so what you're gonna have to do is that you're gonna have to take off this entire area here. It's held together by clips behind here, clips behind here. Once you get this part removed, you also have to come around and remove these bolts here. And the reason why you have to remove these bolts here is because you need to be able to route your cable all the way down in this seam and then tuck it underneath this panel. This panel lifts up after you remove these bolts. We're going to try to show you that right now. So we're first going to go ahead and lift off these clips, get a trim removal kit, try to lift these up. That one came off, and well, this one is a little bit tougher. But that's a good thing. You want these clips to be nice and tight. And now they're both off. And once they're off, you're gonna get a tool that matches this star style, and it says here it is a T25. I got my T25. I'll pop it in here, Go ahead and remove these. Okay, off, off. I also have to remove, as I mentioned earlier, the bolts down here. And the bolts down here are, I believe, just double check, 8 millimeters. So we'll go 8 millimeters in here. Let's go ahead and grab the camera so I can show you. All right, so the bolts are down here, 8 millimeters. We're gonna loosen it up. That's one. The other one's right here. It's a little darker. Back out so you can see it better. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this out this way first and lift up. We'll remove the hook and the clips. Also, you have to take this off as well because this bracket's holding it in. Take this off, slides off just like that. So we're gonna show is that all the wires are routed through and underneath. This little cable here is your wire. It goes all the way underneath and it's going underneath this hole. I'll show you what that hole I'm pointing at right now. So this is the wire again, and you lift up this little mat. Ignore all the other wires because you have a bunch of stuff, but it goes through this hole here. There's a little grommet. You can just open it up. I sealed it back up. Really don't need it, but did it anyways. Once you pull the wires through, we're gonna meet you on the other side. So we're now at the bottom of the car with all the bolts removed. I'm gonna show you how the angle of the module is situated. There is the module right there. It's right here where my finger is pointing. It is double-sided tape down, included in your kit. This is the wire that comes down for the wiring area. So you should be able to pull this down easily once you push the wires through. This is your module. The top side right here is where it says sensor. The bottom is empty. It is also, if you look at it, it runs parallel with the car. It does not run perpendicular, but parallel. This is approximately where I have the module, and I'm gonna show you exactly what the module looks like if it was on the exterior. So if the module was on the exterior, it would look something like this. This is exactly the direction it is, but on the interior side. Notice how the word sensor is facing up. And I also have it where the sensor is parallel with the fins and the vehicle. If you have it this way, then your swiping methodology may be different, but I have it on this way. And I have it right where that sticker is, just like this. Okay, so we're gonna show you our foot movement right now. So what we're trying to do with the module in terms of initiating it is to put our foot right underneath where the module is straight. Don't slide off to the right too much. If you're going straight, this will activate the module 99% of the time. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my arms using my hand as your foot, and this is how I typically initiate the module. So foot, swipe. That's usually how it's done to initiate the unlock. We're gonna do that right now. All right, so we're gonna use that same methodology that I just talked about with our foot. And in this instance, my right foot. So my module is right here, is in between these two fins. I'm gonna put my feet left. I'm gonna do it again, feet left. We'll do it again, but this time a little scale back. Remember, these are my fins, feet left. And then to close, feet left.